This is so stupid. Welcome to Amazingly Average, the show with advice for me. I'm in my car. Welcome to Amazingly Average, the show with advice for amazingly average authors and actors. My name is John, and did you miss me? Because I missed you. Also, I'm in my car. Home sweet home. Sometimes you need to make sacrifices in order to make your dreams a reality. And I'm making the temporary sacrifice of having a bed. Also, I found an agent. I am still deciding which agent I'm going to sign with, but more to come. I want to apologize that I haven't been doing my weekly uploads for the last couple weeks. I spent 4 days driving all the way from Pennsylvania to Vancouver. I've been in Vancouver for 2 weeks, living in my car, and now I'm currently in Washington. Lots going on. So we're going to discuss the Scream Halloween special. I didn't look up if this actually has a movie title or something, so I'm not going to give any backdrops about other movies, but I do want to draw a couple comparisons here. First of all, this movie was very much like the sequel of I Know What You Did Last Summer, which is I Know What You Did Last Summer too. Essentially, they win a trip on an island, and very similar situations happen. Also, Jack Black was in that movie, and he was so bad, which is unlike him because he's good in like everything else that he's in. Also, notice my Scream shirt, and I got a pumpkin so that way it would seem festive. I don't have that much space though. Alright, so we start the episode with Kieran in jail, and we find out that Kieran has been sentenced to 10 consecutive life sentences. As he's being put in the holding cell in the courtroom, there are 2 cops walking him in. They put him in a cell. One leaves. Kieran looks up and he sees the Brandon James masked character above his prison cell. This character jumps off from on top of the cell and twists the other guard's neck around all the way like an owl. Then the other cop comes in and gets stabbed by Brandon James. Kieran gets let out of his prison cell. He says, "I held up my part of the deal. Now tell me who you are." And then he gets his throat slit. Oh, justice. Well, no, I guess justice would have been him rotting in prison. I'm gonna try sitting up. Oh yeah, this is more accurate of how much space I have. We go to the Duvall household, and Maggie is asking Emma about college, and she says, "I don't even know if I want to go to college anymore." That's every parent's worst nightmare. Brooke comes over and says, "I want to check up on how you were." And she tells Emma Kieran was murdered in jail, and Emma's response is, "He got off easy." Damn! We go to Gustavo and Noah, who are being approached by their agent Jeremy for a second book. Noah is experiencing a lot of survivor's guilt, making money off of talking about other people's murders, and he's also having writer block. So their agent Jeremy is telling them that they should cover this case about some chick named Anna Hobbs on an island called Shallow Grave Island. Shallow Grave. Is that foreboding at all? Does that sound like a murder island? Gustavo isn't planning on going to college and doesn't have much going for him, so this book is what he needs right now, and he entices Noah to go. Noah's like, "There's no story here." Essentially, the plot is that on Halloween night, this Anna Hobbs chick went crazy and she murdered her mom, brother, this guy called Reginald Whitten, who was like this rich guy that lived on the same island as them. Emma and Brooke are on their way to school when this whole bunch of paparazzi pop up and start asking them questions, and they're like, no comment, back off. There's one reporter who says, "Did you want Kieran dead?" And then suddenly everything goes in slow motion and some dramatic, suspicious music is playing. And Emma's like, "Yeah, probably." Audrey has a girlfriend named Gina. Emma's like, "I want out of technical malfunction now that I can't charge my batteries." But we're back. Emma's like, "I want out of Lakewood." When Noah presents all them with the option to come along with them, Emma's like, "Yeah, I'm so down." "Emma, it's called Shallow Grave Island." Whatever, you should know by now. Like, have you ever heard of I Know What You Did Last Summer too? Audrey asks if Gina would like to go along with them to this island, and Gina's like, "Nah, girl, I gotta work all the shifts at the movie theater." There's a selfie montage on the airplane, and I was like barfing in my mouth. It was so cheesy. The flight attendant says, "There's the mansion where all the heinous murders happen," and then all the girls in tandem just look back at like Noah and Gustavo. And they're like, "Yeah, that's why we're here." And I was like, great. But then Emma says, it's got 10 less murder houses than Lakewood. So she's being optimistic. Audrey calls Gina on the phone. Gina's like, "I can't talk right now." Audrey's like, "Are you at a party?" And she's like, "I'm definitely not at a party. I gotta go bye." She's being very suspicious. From this point on, I was like, Gina is such a murderer. Maybe she's reminding me of Haley. I don't know. She's also telling Audrey to steal this glass unicorn that she saw in the mansion. That's a bad influence. Brooke is thinking of going to NYU, which is crazy. I like that the pretty girl is also so hella smart. There's this whole thing between Brooke and Gustavo the entire episode where he's like, I want to go with you, and she's like, I don't want me to be the reason why you relocated. We find out that the Anna Hobbs mask is just like a pillow sack with eyes burned into it, kind of like those KKK masks, but it's more like a burlap sack than a pillowcase. It kind of looks like Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th Part 2, before he has the hockey mask. With all the murders that were committed, it seems like the bodies were staged. It was a stormy night and there was no trace of rainwater in the murder mansion. Noah says it sounds like a garden variety murder with rainwater. He's pissing all over this case the entire time. Noah thinks that Anna Hobbs is beautiful when he sees her picture, and apparently she had fits of rage whenever she came home from school, or so they say. Apparently the caretaker, Billy, has the keys to the mansion, so they have to go see Billy later. Emma and Audrey are in the store and they're choosing a potential tattoo for Emma, and then Audrey sees this cute boy come over. She's like, hey, what should she get? And the guy's like, well, you should get this Carpe Diem thing, which means seize the day. Ultimately, Emma decides that that's a decision for another day. And then there's this cute little shuffle where Emma and the boy accidentally swap bags in the grocery store, and she looks in her bag, and instead of all of her pastries, she has a bunch of fish bait, which seems like a I Know What You Did Last Summer 2 reference. Audrey says he could be way more fun than a tattoo. Audrey is such a wing girl in this. There's that snobby historical society guy who showed them the Anna Hobbs mask and everything and was being very snooty. He hears that somebody broke a glass to get into the place. When he finds that the mask is gone, he turns around and he gets slashed by the killer. Emma wants to stay on a first name basis with this new guy that she just met. Her reasoning for this is that Duval carries a lot of baggage. His name is Alex. Brooke plays the friend relationship therapist, and she says that Audrey appears to be building up walls between her and Gina, and Emma needs to break down her walls with this new kid. Then Audrey sees the hot guy and whistles at him, and then her and Brooke are very embarrassingly shooing off Emma to go meet the boy. We find out that his name is Alex Witten, which means he is actually related to the family that was murdered, which goes to show that last names can carry baggage. We really should have just gotten Brooke and Audrey popcorn for this scene because they're like cheering and they're like, bye, as the guy is leaving. We find out that Billy the caretaker is actually this like hot blonde chick, which nobody's expecting. They're all expecting like Igor. Gustavo's like passively flirting with her, invites her to a campfire, which is just to get a rise out of Brooke, which is exactly what Jake did and which is what eventually led to Jake getting murdered. So is Gustavo gonna get murdered? I mean, he's only lived through one season so far, so anything can happen. They ask Billy why they think Anna Hobbs killed everybody, and Billy says, why does the girl do anything? Because she wants to. Billy shows up at the campfire. Brooke is kind of like, what the f***? And then the Anna Hobbs mask villain jumps out of a bush and Emma jujitsus the crap out of him. And it was Jeremy apparently trying to scare Noah and make the experience more real for him so it would break his writer's block. And Emma's like, your plan sucks. Yes, Emma, she's just saying everything that we're all thinking this entire episode. This is my favorite episode with Emma so far because she's just so blunt and like unapologetic. Somebody asks if Billy was familiar with Alex Witten, and she says, I've eaten his snapper once or twice. Anna Hobbs was apparently completely nuts, and she had like doused her teacher in kerosene, and she apparently tried to drown a kid in a well one time. So they think it's pure evil, like a Michael Myers variety. The story goes, Reginald Witten was sleeping with Anna Hobbs' mom, and this was to try to convince him to help send Anna away to a mental ward. And apparently Anna found out about this plan. She murdered Reginald, her mom, her brother, and I think somebody else with a pair of hedge trimmers. And then when she realizes that she has nowhere left to go, she goes to the pier, slices her own throat, and falls into the ocean. Oh good, I'm recording. I thought I wasn't. Billy's theory is that Anna was just misunderstood. That would mean that something else had convinced her to kill herself that night. When Jeremy jumps out of the bushes, Audrey says, you do not pull that prank on survivors of multiple homicide sprees. Amen. Billy the man-stealer gets Gustavo to walk her home, and Brooke is really pissed off. Gustavo's like, I should leave now once they get back to her place, and she's like, and she wants to catch his snapper. She kisses him, and he kind of backs off, and he's like, nah, like, I can't do this, bye. Good man. And then I was like, is Billy about to get attacked? Because there's this really dramatic build-up, there's nothing happening, there's dramatic music, that's never good for a character. They build up to it, suddenly the music stops, she's looking at her door, and she says, Happy Halloween, and she goes back inside, and then she gets sliced in the stomach, and then like murdered, however. You know how these murders happen. The murderer appeared to be about Gustavo's height, and I'm not saying that I think it's Gustavo. Alex is cooking fish for Emma, and he says that there's nothing better than catching your own lunch, and that his dad taught him how to fish. And she's talking about how her dad taught her how to play the piano, but she stopped doing it after he left. And then Alex says, both of my parents died on an airplane crash. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. He was 15. His motive for being a recluse was, I was lost. Everyone was watching. He retreated from the public eye so he could find himself. Find out that he was a killer. I didn't want Alex to be the killer, so I've been kind of rooting for him this whole episode. There has to be one attractive male that isn't also a murderer that expresses romantic interest in Emma, which I guess is technically Will, but we thought Will was a murderer in the first season. Gustavo writes Brooke an apology in the form of a massage appointment that he set up, and she says, I will take it into consideration. And then they start making out. Noah, Audrey, and Gustavo happen upon the mess of Billy all over the place. Blood, hedge clippers in the tree stump right outside her front door. The police seem really dismissive at first, and then Audrey says that they should call the police, and thank God after an entire season, they finally learned to call the police when somebody dies. They say nobody saw Jeremy since last night, and his last name is Jeremy Blair. Jeremy Blair. Blair Witch. Jeremy is a witch. Jeremy the Blair Witch murderer. They're just references out of the waz here. There's an island storm going on. Alex is walking Emma back wherever they're supposed to be going. He says there's nothing like an island storm, and then he says, you're like an island girl now. What the does that even mean? And then they kiss, and then you're like, aw, and I was like, it's a trap. I'll call you. Yeah, sounds good. 2016 romance. The storm is so extra right now, in like the millennial sense where it's just too much. Emma walks into their mansion. She says, hello, anybody home? Death wish? A landline is ringing, and I'm like, Emma, don't pick up the landline. They're gonna charge you minutes. It's a very 1996 Scream 1 sort of reference. Hello? Hello, Emma. Did you miss me? You're dead. Somebody is. Turn on the porch lights. She turns on the porch lights, and Billy is in a chair all messed up, kind of like Casey Becker's boyfriend in the first Scream movie, and she has a pic of Anna Hobbs on her. The main cop in this episode is driving down the road. He sees some fishnets on the ground. I know what you did last summer too. He sees a dead body beneath it, and the dead body is missing an eyeball and a chunk of skin is missing from the side of its mouth. The Anna Hobbs killer jumps out of the bushes. The cop gets his fingers chopped off, and then he gets his throat slit. We jump back to Brooke, who is saying, you don't think Kieran's murderer came to Shallow Grave Island to finish off the rest of the Lakewood Six, do you? Noah thinks that it's Freddy versus Jason territory, where one killer and another killer from two different series are gonna come together to terrorize you at the same time. Jeremy, Gina. They hear a shriek and they run to it. Lo and behold, Gina is here. She saw the sheriff's head on the porch, and everyone's like, Gina, how the did you get here? I came to surprise Audrey. I took a boat and it left. Gina, go yourself. That is the worst alibi ever. They go and knock on Alex Whitten's front door, and Emma's like, we need your help. They get in Alex's car, and his car looks a lot like the Scooby-Doo Mystery Machine, but without all the hippie flowers. Alex in this is reminding me a lot of, I think the guy's name is James Theriot or something. There's that Jennifer Lawrence horror movie, I think it's called The House at the End of the Street, and he is very awkward and alone like the character in that movie. He also looks a little bit like him. Someone stole Alex's boat, and congrats, now they're all stuck on Shallow Grave Island, where they all dug their own shallow grave because they were too dumb to think about what the island was called. Congrats! What did you think would happen? They go to the Whitten murder mansion. Noah's poking plot holes in the murder story, and Gustavo just keeps talking about like this murder case, which is not a good idea when you're with a bunch of girls and they've just seen a couple corpses. The cell towers are out, as are the landlines. Now we are definitely stuck in the 90s. Also, I had to note that Emma had a pretty cool pineapple shirt on. Emma says they're sitting ducks and they need to arm up. Yes! Emma is so smart in this episode. Gina says they should call the cops. Well, you know, the cop's head was on the porch, so I don't think he's gonna do you much good, Gina. Brooke spits some hot fire truth and says, shouldn't we stay together inside instead of splitting up? Gustavo says, I got you, and then he just leaves. And she just lets him leave. Emma tells the Brandon James stuff to Alex, and Alex is like, well, I'm kind of relieved you said that, because I thought you guys were way too calm with all this murder stuff going on. He says, you're such a survivor, which are the words of a killer, and instantly I was like, okay, Alex is definitely a killer, if not one of two killers. He's really working his puppy eyes on her, his puppy eyes of doom. I'm getting such bad vibes from the new kids in this episode. Gina and Audrey have a heart-to-heart, and Audrey is just like a queer superhero here. I love Audrey. Audrey's like, wait, so you took the ferry this morning, right? What were you doing? Just like wandering around all day? And Gina's like getting really defensive and up in arms. Gina, when you're dating a girl that has been around a lot of murder, you kind of have to be patient because everybody close to her always screws her over. Audrey's like, I'm sorry, it's second nature at this point, and Gina gets mad and leaves. Gina, go fuck yourself. Brooke and Emma see Jeremy outside, and I thought Jeremy was the dead guy under the fishnets the entire time. So I was like, what? They let Jeremy inside. Alex Whitten has a shotgun. Jeremy says, you must be Alex Whitten. You have a lovely home. That's such a weird thing to say when you're the prime murder suspect. Jeremy has a stupid alibi, and he can't even look at them while he's telling his story, which is such like a killer characteristic thing. Audrey has been all against Jeremy this entire episode. Alex locks him into a room, and I was like, maybe there are two killers again? Noah blames himself as he and Gustavo are trying to get a radio working. He says that this is all my fault, we're all gonna die because of me, and Gustavo's like, you're so self-involved. I just love the dynamic between those two. Noah's like, cool, bruh. Audrey wants to split up. Alex is trying to give them red wine, which is sending up red flags. You shouldn't be drinking wine when murder's happening. I want to trust him, but I don't. He talks about this Buddhist parable where there's this guy running away from these like bloodthirsty tigers, and then he trips over a cliff and he catches onto a vine. He finds out that there are bloodthirsty tigers below him. He finds that there are a couple mice chewing on the vine, and then he sees his field of strawberries. And what he does is he eats the strawberry, and it's the sweetest thing that he'd ever tasted. And then Emma's like, carpe diem, seize the day. Audrey's looking for Gina. She sees Gina's phone charging. She looks through Gina's phone and she finds pictures of Audrey and Emma around the island. And this is like, ugh, killer motives, jealousy. Emma sees the word never written on her wall in blood with a bloody handprint on it. Audrey confronts Gina. Gina backpedals. She's saying that she's jealous of her and Emma, and that every time Emma calls for Audrey, Audrey drops everything and goes running. And then Emma literally appears and says, Audrey, we need to go. And then Audrey leaves, proving Gina's point, but still, screw you, Gina. They split up again. It's Noah and Gustavo, Brooke and Alex, Emma and Audrey. There are Gina and Jeremy. Then the power goes out. Alex goes to fix the generator, which is such an alibi. Jeez, it's a long episode. I'm like, Gina's gonna die. She's alone. Jeremy appears. Gina says that she's gonna attack him with, what weapon did she have? She had some sort of weapon in her hands. And then she just runs away. He sits down at the desk and finds a photo. There's just an old woman outside looking at me, talking to my camera. That is so awkward. Screw it. Who cares? The photo looks like Billy and some guy who we didn't know yet. And then Jeremy is impaled by Alex. Well, at least they don't have to unmask him. We know who the killer is. Brooke was like, I was being a jerk, and then I made you into a jerk. I'm sorry. And Gustavo's like, it's cool. And then she's like, this is the part where you kiss me. And then they make out again. Audrey and Noah show up. Now they're all in Reginald's room. They find a photo album of scantily clad women in Reginald's room. This is showing that Reginald is like a scummy old man. And then there are empty photo spots for Anna Hobbs, Anna's mom, and a mistress. Then Noah finds a secret passageway. He steps on a thing. It opens up the passageway for them, and it explains how all this murder could have happened without leaving rainwater if the bodies were moved and staged in a certain way. Holy haunted mansion, Batman. Best line of the whole episode. They all go in. Emma and Alex are talking. I can help you out, etc. We'd be like travel partners. I smell mayhem. And I think that Emma's on to him. Yet she's kissing him. She's just kind of playing him right now. He has Emma lock herself away somewhere. Alex figures out that they made it into the secret passageway, and then he pulls out his Anna Hobbs mask, which he had stored away. Did somebody just find their playtime mask? What would Reginald do with a secret passage room to his caretaker's cottage? He came for Anna in the dead of night. Anna's mom tried fighting Reginald off. He killed Anna's mom. He killed her brother when her brother had saw. He's about to rape Anna, and then Anna fights him off, manages to kill him, and then she realizes that there's no way this is going to play in her favor. Reginald Whitten's people are going to stage this to look like Anna did everything. So Anna just stands out on the pier. She succumbs to her own injuries and dies, but she dies kind of like a hero. This is just a hypothesis though. Brooke is like, how does this help? Which is, I guess, accurate. They find Jeremy's body, and I smell an alliance between Alex and Gina. We find out that the photo is of Billy and the real Alex. The real Alex was killed by fake Alex. Emma flees the masked assailant. She takes clippers and fights back with the masked person and assumes it's a he. Alex goes full psycho and states his story. He's stronger than Emma and thwarts her lamp attack. Fake Alex's parents didn't die in a plane crash. They were murdered, and he watched. And he was like, I can't take all this pressure with the cameras. He identifies with Emma. He wants to go away with Emma, and then he ends up holding her by the throat. He found out via Jeremy's website that all of them were going to come to this island, and that's when he set all this up. Emma's playing to his emotions and been like, I've been looking for someone like you. Let's eat the strawberries. What about my friends? I took care of them. What do you mean you took care of them? I locked them away in the basement. Then she steals his hedge clippers and runs away. Emma, come out, wherever you are. And then Emma stabs Alex. Well, that wasn't very fair. And then he gets up and chases her up the stairs like it was nothing. It was awesome. The cliched plot is cliched day and Emma points it out. I don't need a hero. I'm Emma Duval. I don't need you. And she pushes him off a railing. Emma is a bad bitch. Audrey has her kumbaya moment with Gina. I'm still suspicious of Gina. Brooke and Gustavo are set on both going to New York together because they can't imagine it without one another. He's like, you're so desperate. And then he's like, JK, I want to be with you. And they start making a semi-Jake kind of scenario. Noah and Emma are talking. Here we go again. The aftermath. You okay? Yeah. No. Noah's antidote to the Survivors Guild is that they can't live to tell their story, so he has to tell it for them. Emma applies to go to Lakewood University. Girl, get out of Murderville. Emma's dad is there. He's looking at a grave or something. And then somebody in a baseball hat is walking to a hotel and signing in for a room with a receptionist. And she says, welcome to Lakewood, Mr. James. I don't think the guy who signed in was Emma's dad though, because they were wearing different jackets and it looked like this was happening the same night. Receptionist, get on your shit. You know the name Brandon James. I'm saying that the killer is definitely a Mr. because the receptionist had to dress that person as Mr. James. Well, there you have it. That was this week's episode, the 2-hour Halloween special. There's season 3. Until next time.